sees is over Maryland Heights.
Oh my God.
70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. You're looking at least EF3 damage.
In St. Louis, weather is rarely boring.
I'm standing here now because of my weather spotter training.
And certainly it's scary.
It was extremely terrifying.
I've been here my whole life.
And predicting that weather can certainly be a challenge.
27 years and I've never seen anything like it.
When the snow is as high as the snow route sign, you know you're in trouble.
Bam, bam, bam. They just kept coming.
This is Gateway StormFest 2011.
And welcome everybody to the Gateway StormFest 2011. We all know how diverse the weather can be here in the St. Louis area. We can obviously have the bitter cold that we have every winter with the ice and the snow, and extreme heat during the summertime with drought and extreme humidity across St. Louis. That clash of extremes is what makes the weather really interesting here in the St. Louis area, because it can bring dangerous tornadoes, it can bring flash flooding, severe thunderstorms, just about any time of year. You're also lucky enough to live in one of the wildest places for weather, not only in the United States, but around the globe. And that makes it really interesting. And I want to introduce you to the folks who are going to be joining us on stage and also out in the audience here. And we're going to kind of work this way across the table here. Wes Browning, he is the meteorologist in charge at the National Weather Service. John Fuller, chief meteorologist of Channel 11. Chris Higgins, meteorologist of Fox 2. There we have Charles Grave from St. Louis University, associate professor in meteorology. Hey! Glenn Zimmerman from Fox 2. That's right. All right. And looks like the winner is. We're still not quite sure what Glenn does, but we're happy to have him. And Jim Cramper, he is the warning coordinator of the National Weather Service. And then floating around the audience, and I couldn't think of a better pair to be floating around the audience, is Angela Huddy from Fox 2. And Michelle Anselmo from Channel 11. Now, the National Weather Service and the meteorologist at Fox 2 and Channel 11 work together almost every single day. And that's one of the reasons we're here. But during severe weather, we really work together. It becomes a real teamwork operation. Glenn Zimmerman is here to kind of show us how that relationship unfolded, especially during the severe weather event of New Year's Eve here in St. Louis. Glenn?
Yeah, New Year's Eve. It was an amazing storm, wasn't it? People in Sunset Hills will remember that one for sure for a long time. The atmosphere set up early in the morning. It was warm. It was in the 60s that morning, and so while we were thinking New Year's Eve, ringing in 2011, Mother Nature had different plans.
It was supposed to be a day to ring in the new year. Instead, it was a day of ringing sirens. We all know about the tornadoes that touched down Rolla, Robertsville, Baldwin, North St. Louis, and the strong F3 twister in Sunset Hills. But this tornado day started well before the St. Louis storms. Dave and I went back to our partners at the National Weather Service office to revisit New Year's Eve morning, a weirdly warm morning with lots of signs of bad weather on the way.
And we looked at the wind shear, and the wind shear is just the difference in the surface winds and winds aloft. And you get this twist in the atmosphere. And when we see that, that's what the potential is for later in the day as the thunderstorms move over that wind shear to ingest that and actually produce tornadoes.
The National Weather Service and Fox 2 go into storm mode together as we both start to track the building storms.
The process of getting you severe weather information is actually quite a simple one. The National Weather Service will monitor their Doppler radar and watch the storms as they start to build. Once they determine that a storm is severe enough to issue a warning, they push a button and that info goes straight into our first storm alert computer. That then is generating a crawl that goes on the air on Fox 2. When we see a storm is strong enough and it's heading toward the metro area, we get a printout Then we go on the air from this point to tell you about how that storm impacts your neighborhood.
When the National Weather Service issues the warning, we're on the air with it immediately. It's a partnership that gets the storm info out fast.
The tactic we took, issue a large tornado warning and then feed specific information on the most threatening circulations to our media partners.
It's information that can save lives, where every minute counts. And when you look back at the day, there's always a worst-case scenario that goes through your mind.
If that thing had stayed on the ground as an EF3, which it was in parts of Sunset Hills, and moved through Webster Grove, Forest Park, on up through North City, it's really amazing to think about the destruction that could have happened.
That event on New Year's Eve during the day and into the evening is probably the crowning moment of the winter of 2010 into 2011. And joining us on the panel to talk about that day and a little bit about the winter in general of this particular winter is Jim Severking. He was on duty at the National Weather Service when all of this started to break out. Jim, this is Jim right here. Please welcome Jim to the panel. And Jim, you were first at the Weather Service kind of seeing this. What was your reaction to the day, and when did you know we were going down a bad road?
Well, we had seen days in advance that the setup was there for a possibility of a tornado outbreak, at least severe thunderstorms. But it really hit home when I walked out the door and it was 60 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning going to work. I think most people will probably agree with that that's not supposed to happen on December 31st. But then when I got to work, there was already a tornado watch that had been issued, and we saw those circulations down by Rolla and Fort Leonard Wood, and we knew that it was going to be a busy morning.
And Glenn, you caught it being on the air first at 4 o'clock in the morning, kind of watching this unfold. And initially, even though we've had it in the forecast for almost 5 days in advance that there were going to be some wicked thunderstorms, initially, at that time of day at 4 o'clock in the morning, it was kind of like a, maybe.
Right,
maybe.
yeah. I mean, you start to put the different variables together, you start to look at things. The one thing that we noticed right off the bat was, well, when I first got up, there were tornadoes in Arkansas. There were killer tornadoes in Arkansas. The nocturnal storms rolling through there. I can't remember the specific town, but there were deaths there. And that was the system that was pushing our way. And so you kind of look, okay, well, that was here, and it's moving this way, and so that kind of energy could be here. It's already warm this morning, and so, you know, a lot of warning signs were going off at that point.
And Wes, being the meteorologist in charge at the Weather Service, at what point did you say, you know what, we need to circle the wagons here because we're going to town?
Like Jim was saying, when we saw the circulations that were around Rolla and got the reports of the tornadoes on the ground, to see those supercells and then see your county warning area, your area of responsibility, and see those cells moving up toward, you know that bad things could possibly happen. And we take that so seriously.
And we were all involved in obviously the broadcast of that information. And John was with us in the Fox 2 Weather Center as we were simulcasting. And I know at times at home it might look like it is just a free-for-all, but we really do have set jobs of what we do.
We sure do. We know when there are tornado warnings in southwest portions of Missouri that we're all on call. You know, bring the wagons together and get the troops on board. And because we simulcast 2 stations, there's more responsibility because we have 2 groups of viewers that want the information. And it's very important in order to save lives in a timely fashion.
One of the neat things about that event as far as the broadcast was concerned was to be able to be in the weather office and everybody is there and we're really clicking, we're trying to get the information out. And once we realized what was going on, Chris looked at me and he said, I should be out of here, right? And I said, go. And he was actually one of the first guys on the ground at Sunset Hills. He almost got in before the emergency crew.
Yeah, we got in there just before they closed it down to the media. So we were, it was one of those things where we saw where the circulations were going and we had to kind of figure out, okay, which one's the worst? And the very first indications we were getting both from the NWS chat and from scanner traffic from the emergency services was there was something big going down It matched with the circulation that we saw coming up on the radar, and we said, we need to get there. And we took off, got down there. This is literally, I mean, they're still doing the search and rescue, and we're showing up there with some of the rescue crews. And that's an important part of the warning process because it immediately drives home to people downwind in the city of St. Louis, Metro East. Right. This, again, you know, this is something not to fool with, and it drives home that you know, this is a warning, as most warnings, if not all warnings are, you need to take seriously.
And Jim, you being a warning coordinator, it was a different kind of warning situation. It wasn't your typical tornado situation where you have one cell and we know, okay, here it is, it either rotating or it's on the ground and it's moving here. This was a much broader base event. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, a lot of people see the tornado videos in places like Texas and Kansas, and those are often individual supercell storms, very easy to see and detect. Unfortunately, in our area, we get these kind of hybrid things that can be very difficult to deal with, and unfortunately, a lot of our events are also involving a lot of rain. These tornadoes end up literally wrapped in rain, very difficult to see. Very dangerous situation, and unfortunately, that's exactly what we ended up here. As the storms were moving from southwest Missouri, they started as kind of classic supercells. They got closer to us, they evolved into this hybrid thing. It can be very difficult to pick out these little circulations, and sometimes you just got to warn big areas. You don't like to do that, but you don't have a choice.
Tornadoes are nothing new to St. Louis. In fact, some of the costliest in history have happened right here. Up next on Gateway StormFest 2011, destructive pictures from St. Louis and the important message from the National Weather Service that could save your life. And later, severe weather in St. Louis means lightning. Dramatic video of close-up lightning strikes and what you need to know to avoid being a victim. Plus, overnight storms can sometimes be the most dangerous. What are nocturnal storms and the dangers they pose when Gateway StormFest 2011 returns?